So here's Stephen Porges. And in 1994, he announced his Polyvagal Theory. He's a deep thinker with a very rich vocabulary, and the Polyvagal Theory has been peer-reviewed with 300 peer-reviewed papers. It is a new perspective from how we used to think about stress management. I used to teach stress management at the Women's Health Resources, and it was either you're stressed out or you're not stressed out. And Stephen Porges has expanded our understanding of what's going on in the nervous system. So here's a quotation to sort of launch us into thinking about how we might utilize the perspective. It's not necessarily a healing modality, more of a perspective that we come with for ourselves to meet with our clients or meet with our loved ones. When we're in safe states, we can access higher cortical functions. That means the prefrontal cortex is intact. We can make connection. We can think logically, and I'll be talking more about that. When we're in danger states, that means that the fight, flight, collapse response has been activated. Those systems turn off, and we're defensive or in defense. So what is the polyvagal theory? Well, it's quite complicated, and of course it's based a lot on our biology. And it emphasizes the role the autonomic nervous system, especially the vagus nerve, plays in regulating our health and our behavior. Health, mental health, physical health, behavior, reactions, responses. So the autonomic nervous system terminology, the prefrontal cortex, is that part of the last part of the brain that got developed, that when it's not intact and totally functioning, we get disconnected from other people. And there's Peter Levine talks about flipping the lid. You know, the prefrontal cortex is intact, it gets triggered and it flips the lid, and how do you get it back intact? The amygdala, I just consider it like the fire alarm of our nervous system. It's like your house's fire alarm or your car's alarm that goes off. And another quotation from that we have here is from Deb Dana. The ability to respond to and recover from the challenges of daily living is a marker of well-being and depends on the actions of the autonomic nervous system. So this fire alarm that goes off or can be calmed down is crucial for the ability to handle the challenges of daily living. So this is, I want to emphasize that what we can learn from the polyvagal theory and how it's been made accessible to us can help people get returned to center, which is the phrase I like to use, to manage their daily challenges. And trauma, we know, has to do with the past not being calmed, not being resolved, easily triggered. And so it has some element of managing trauma, but still trauma treatments and protocols are still very much needed within the context of the polyvagal theory. And Porges goes on and on about the vagus nerve, and this is a nerve that goes from the back of the skull all the way down to our elimination system. It affects all these organs. It affects your mood. It affects your stress responses, your heart rate, your breathing, and it can get weary. And Porges talks about vagal tone, which is toning up the vagus nerve. Think about maybe it being strong, and when it's weak, we get more easily triggered. And so when we're talking about strengthening the centered state, well, that's the language I use. How can we strengthen the centered state? We're actually strengthening the vagus nerve, biology terms. So we've got this amygdala, like the size of an almond, and it's got like little antennae and sort of what's the word I'm trying to say? Is scouring its environment for safety or for danger, and fires and triggers. The fight, flee, or collapse response are survival reactions activated by the amygdala. And these figures may look common to you. You may see clients come in either of these kinds of postures, and they are representing some states that we're going to explore later. So just a little bit of evolution around the mammalian survival response. So you see, the rabbit is prey, and we've got a predator. And the rabbit picks up the cues and may start to either turn around to fight to see if it can defend itself. And if it sees this beast is going to decide, no, that's a lost cause, and turns around and then flees. Now, if fleeing doesn't work, a rabbit will collapse and play dead. And if the predator decides that it's dead, it will just sniff around, sniff its body, and kind of leave. And then the rabbit will get up and shake its body, shake all the tension out, get a smile on its face, and go off into the woods. I'll just mention here a little bit about trauma. Oftentimes, we needed as children, when we tightened ourselves to stay safe, we needed somebody to make it safe for us to shake off all the tension, because trauma gets grounded in the organs, the muscles, the nervous system, all of it, brain, and then it gets triggered later in life. But we human beings evolved the prefrontal cortex, and we started to create safety in another way. Rather than fighting, fleeing, collapsing, we learned to be safe in connection, survival with one another, the prefrontal cortex, looking at one another, connecting. And many mammals also do this. We evolved to a consciousness of knowing how important connection is. And of course, in 2018, the World Health Organization announced that loneliness was a significant mental and physical health pandemic. Pandemic in 2018 was called a pandemic. So it's very important, the whole piece around connection. So it brings us to emotional regulation. When we get disconnected, we're emotionally dysregulated. We get scared. And the emotional regulation, the prefrontal cortex, fully intact, helps us control our attention, gives us capacity to logically assess what's going on, and allows us to manage the nervous system's stress or danger response. If you manage it, I can manage this, I can figure out what to do. And co-regulation is when these two come together. And as children require adults to be there to soothe, help them learn how to soothe the nervous system. So the process whereby individuals learn to soothe their nervous system stress responses with the support of another person. This is key to being a therapist. I see people day after day that did not have an adult as they were growing up to help them with their emotional regulation. So can I stay regulated and welcome them to co-regulate, one nervous system joining the other.